It is 2024, and if you do not have video on your website, you don't have good video on your social media, you're leaving money on the table, and you are limiting the reach that you can have in your community. So if you are a small business and you don't want to do all the video stuff, that's not your big thing, it can be a real pain in the... And with that in mind, here is Matt Polson, the video department. So if you don't have a video department, go to the video department. Matt Polson, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
So I wanted to jump right in and get to this social media world, right? So we all have social media, hopefully. If you're watching this, I'm assuming you have social media. Because YouTube is a social media, right? What would you say as a business owner is the best way to start engaging on social media with video?
Well, hire the video department.
Okay.
But
obviously,
no,
number one.
In all seriousness, you got to really think about what your objectives are. Who are you trying to reach? Is this a video that is meant for your target customers who you haven't reached yet? Is this a video that is meant to engage your existing customers? Is this a B2B type video? Is this a video for your employees? What are the needs of your business? We try and look at what we do not simply as a creative endeavor, but you've heard me say it a million times, we come up with business solutions.
Right.
So we're more than just a video company. We're trying to help you streamline your processes.
Right. And everybody knows Facebook, but Facebook is kind of trending down, it seems like, right? But the opposite seems to be true with YouTube. So I know we talked about how YouTube is actually the number 2 search engine in the world right now. Right. And you actually just told me before this that Google actually owns them. So number 1 and number 2 are pretty much the same company. And you got to jump in on that. I know you had mentioned that Google ads may start to lose their value. Is the opposite true with YouTube ads?
In terms of the value of the...
Yeah, like I guess like the pay per click or pay per view or...
Yeah, I mean, in YouTube, YouTube is really more than one platform in itself. So there is the longer video where you do the OTT type advertising.
That's, what is
OTT? OTT, those are the ones where it pops up and it's like you can skip this ad in 5 seconds. Okay. So it's anything over the top is the lingo.
Okay.
And so, you know, you're watching, let's say you're on Hulu and the commercials come up. Those are traditionally OTT advertising.
Okay.
I might have mixed that up a little bit, but definitely when you're on YouTube and you see the ads come up, that is a very specific type of advertising.
Okay.
And then there is YouTube Shorts. And so there are ads within YouTube Shorts as well. And obviously YouTube Shorts is in the vertical format, and you're discovering, right? So you're scrolling through, and based on your engagement with each video, the algorithm is calculating what to bring you next. And that will also factor into the types of ads that you see. Of course, I'm seeing all sorts of video production ads, buy this light, take my class, like all of that sort of stuff. So but what that means is that those ads are very specifically targeted. We already said Google and YouTube are the same thing, basically. Right. So whatever technology Google is using to focus in on your search results, YouTube is doing the same exact stuff with its ads. What I would encourage business owners to look at is, if you are one of those business owners who is caught in the trap of spending $5,000, $10,000, $20,000 a month on Google ads, consider putting a little bit of that towards video, both the production of it and then the ad spend of it. Just to pivot, purchasing ads on Facebook or Instagram or LinkedIn, for that matter, are a fraction of the cost than doing it through Google.
Okay.
And we also offer social media management. My wife runs that. She is very good at targeting, and I don't even know exactly how it works myself, targeting who is seeing what you're putting on those platforms when it comes to ads.
Okay.
So it can be much more effective and efficient.
Have you found, I guess, just in your field, it's a bit more specific, you know, like if you're a plumber or a handyman, pretty much anybody is going to need that service, and they're going to be a good customer, right? The quality of leads from social media for a more specific business like ours, how would you rate those different, Google pay-per-click versus, the other social medias that you were talking about?
Well, you and I are in very different worlds in that regard. My ticket price for a video is the customer's going to expect to spend way more with me than they are with you, right?
Because they think insurance covers things.
Well, what I would say is what I said today in our meeting earlier. My video is going to last for 5 years or more. So it's like my video, like what I'm creating is, we expect it to have the same life as your roof.
Right.
You know what I mean? So it's like an investment.
Right. Whereas I can get you there, but you're the one that has to live the pain-free life. So if you stop doing your exercises, you may go back to the same place you were.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think that the key is nowadays with social media, having something specific to offer. And that's what I've been struggling with. It's one of the things I've talked to you about, I know, is we're working on a DIY home studio package.
Right.
So we'll come in, we'll bring some equipment with us, like the microphones that we're using today, a small light, a stand like you're using for your phone, and depending on which level of package they get, we'll walk them all the way through how to record and edit their first video from home.
Nice.
And so that's just, as the marketplace changes for all of our businesses, we're all going to have to innovate. And though what I'm talking about is not necessarily innovative in its individual elements, creating a business model around that is something that is one way that I think we can market ourselves on social media, to go back to the original question. Like right now it's hard for me to advertise on social media because my call to action is a little bit vague. Come to me to get a custom quote on a video is not as friendly as, for as little as $500, you can have your own home studio. Right? Like, that's much more appealing.
Yeah.
And I think will make people click to see what's next versus custom video pricing available. Like, what does that mean? It could be, I just met with a web designer, and I was so grateful to hear him say this. He said, my experience in working with videographers is a video could cost $2,000, it could cost $10,000, or it could cost $25,000, the same video.
Wow.
And I'm proud to say that we are on the 2,000 end of the spectrum because we're working with people like you who are trying to build up their business. We're not working with Apple.
Right.
Or, these companies that are putting millions and millions and millions into these productions that are just, it's like forgettable. And so if by its nature, video is becoming more and more ephemeral because we have so much of it, ephemeral.
You're going to have to tell me what that is.
Theater is ephemeral.
Okay.
Theater, you experience it and then it's gone.
Okay.
Right? And the only thing that you have left is the memories. Video is sort of getting like that because there's so freaking much of it. For a video to be really memorable, it has to be exceptional.
You're talking about more content or the production value or both?
Well, that's kind of what I'm saying. It's like people spend all of this money on these high-quality production values, but then it's like, then they do the exact same thing again the next year, and the one that they did before is forgotten about. And so if that is what is the natural cycle of these things, which I would offer that it is, then why spend $25,000 on that video when you can spend $2,000 on it, knowing that you're going to have to do it again in a year, depending on what if it's a clothing company, they're not advertising the same thing next year, so they got to do it all again next year.
Right.
Which it's a sidetrack, but one of the things we're going to talk about is video.
Right.
And so we try and make all of our videos evergreen as much as we can. Now, say you might have a 2023 Christmas special one-time offer, $50, and you want a commercial for it. That video is not going to be evergreen because it's very specific to a moment in time. But just working on some videos with Evan Silverstein of Colonial Floors of Virginia, when he made a video where he's promoting a specific product, but he didn't get real specific about like the brand within the brand of the product. He only talked about the high-level brand. He's like, I like this high-level brand of floor stain because it's always been really high quality. he knows that that brand is not going to change for the next few years.
Okay.
You know what I mean? They've been around forever. So we made 6 or 7 videos for him that truly could last 5, 10 years or beyond, depending on how his business grows in that time.
That's good. The ability to show the lasting value of your company in one video seems like it would be hard to put together. You know what I mean? I don't know. I do a lot of like around 1 minute videos, right? And I know I've been trying to talk about things that it doesn't matter what day you see it, right? But you're talking about years. What I guess how do you think about that in a way? Like, so what are some of the questions you ask yourself when you're looking to help create some content or ideas for content for an evergreen video?
Sure. Values.
Okay.
I think values are really important. And what I mean by that is just bringing up Colonial Floors as an example because I'm so familiar with it. They have certain values that make their approach to what they do unique.
Okay.
For example, they are really on top of it with customer service, like calling ahead for appointments, calling the day before to confirm, things like that. That's not something that's ever going to change, and that is a incredible asset in today's marketplace in a competitive field too. So it's about identifying what are the brands, the company's key values, because 9 times out of 10 those are pretty steadfast and grounded. And then, you know, another way to sort of look at it is from the converse, which is what are the red flags here? Like most of the time when I'm working with an expert, like an Eben or a you or Pixel Strike, they are doing the first draft of the script.
Okay.
Because they're an expert.
Right.
What am I, you know, I'm going to chat GPT it, to be honest. If you're asking me to write the first draft, I'm chat GPT-ing it. You know, my job is, in more than one way, is to be an editor. Okay. I'm an editor in the post-production world with the video, but I'm an editor up front before we even get started.
Right. So I would know the truth of it. You know how that's going to play on camera.
Let's reword this to make it just a little bit more timeless.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, which I enjoy. That's fun.
Yeah. How much does the video production aspect of it fall in? I know we had talked about when you start, it doesn't necessarily need to be as high video production value.
Right.
But as you move along, it becomes more and more important as you're expected of more, correct?
Yeah, and I think people are forgiving if they see that your channel is young, your YouTube channel or whatever, right? But they do have expectations that you're going to improve. You know, if you are if you're doing videos, and people will know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
If you're doing a video and you're recording yourself like this, and the camera's pointing up,
right,
and you're looking down like this, people are only going to watch 1 or 2 of those before they're like, I can't do this anymore. So, you know, you have to grow. If you're going to be somebody who's doing it all the time, you have to abide by, I don't want to say certain standards, because rules are always meant to be broken, but there are certain rules of cinematography that have applied for as long as, I mean, beyond photography. It's the same rules that the great painters use, you know what I mean? I had a tremendous mentor when I first started, and he really taught me to look, when you're looking at the monitor of the camera, a big monitor, you look at that as a canvas of a painting. And every single inch of that canvas needs to be intentional. Right? It doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to be intentional. And so if you're just starting and you're doing the low angle videos, like that'll work for a while, but you need you always need to be improving in whatever you're doing, whether it's being a chiropractor or a videographer or a janitor, whatever it is, you need to be getting better. And so I would say that if it doesn't come naturally, there's a million what am I trying to say? Assets, a million different people out there.
Resources.
Who will tell you how to do it better. We are focusing on, because we feel like that market is so saturated, we're trying to focus on the in-person training for that. And that's sort of where my background is. I spent 6 years teaching at VCU. Before that, I taught for 10 years at a performing arts school in Richmond. So we want to, I mean, like anyone, I think it's so important to do what you're good at.
Yeah.
And that's one thing that I'm good at. You can't do it over Zoom, or you can't do it over a camera the way that you can when you're with somebody, and you can hold it with them, and you can be there with them and see them fail and correct them in the moment versus reviewing their footage or whatever. So I taught for VCU for 6 years. My last year was the first year of COVID. So I did 2 semesters over Zoom of public speaking. It was very challenging. Very challenging.
Yeah.
And
I can imagine people would not respond the same way as if they did if people were sitting there listening to them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's sort of our premise with the DIY YouTube studio is we really, I mean, anybody can do it. It doesn't cost much money, to start your own channel. I mean, basically it's free if you have a phone and a computer.
Yeah. At what point do you think it would be most advantageous to someone to get, like, I guess the package? I can't remember what you said you called it.
Yeah.
But the home studio
the
package.
DIY home studio.
Yeah, that. Would it be as soon as they begin?
Could be.
Or, when you've started to make some money, do you want to kick it up? Or,
Well, first of all, I wouldn't expect to make money, if that's what you're talking about, as the YouTuber.
Yeah, well, I'm coming from the perspective of a small business owner,
right?
Who is doing video to augment advertising.
Well, for you, right, and for you, the return on the investment is somebody sees your video and comes and purchases your thing, not you're getting AdSense from or what? Right. It could start at the beginning. I mean, honestly, I would encourage someone if they are nervous about getting started, like do the DIY package. We'll help you. We'll baby step you through the first one.
There you go.
But it could also be somebody who's just looking to take their existing channel up a level. And again, it's not hard. The key is having a dedicated space where you can set it up over and over again and do like you're doing here. But yeah, it's not difficult, and even that is going to change over time because like you might start in one space, but then if you grow and it's going well, you're going to move to a different, better space.
True.
So yeah, it could. There's never a wrong time to get better at something.
Okay. And that's kind of what I'm hearing in all of that is wherever you are, we can take you to another level with the DIY studio.
100%.
Okay.
The only exception to that would be like, Tilt Productions in town. There's like a big video production company. I probably don't have too much to offer them. Okay. Maybe in the public speaking world I could, but they're pretty sharp video makers.
Gotcha.
They do big Audi overseas productions. But yeah, I mean, anybody who... From the amateur to the semi-professional. Okay. We can definitely help.
Okay. I want to go back just a little bit to something that, when you were talking about making the videos evergreen and it being more about company values that aren't going to change. That made me think that, my whole premise of business is that business can make the world better, right? If you do it right. If you have something to give. And... that made me think that an evergreen video is more selling us than selling whatever we do. Right?
Yeah. That's the way to put it.
And with that whole thought process, we both belong to an organization that talks about givers gain. Yeah. How would you say that you're applying that in your business?
Well, like all of us who are in the B&I world, anytime we are with a client... If you're doing it right, you're thinking about what of your B&I friends you can refer this client to. What are their other pain points? So, B&I is businesses helping businesses.
Right.
It could be changed to BHB, businesses helping businesses. And businesses are run by our neighbors.
Yeah.
That's all you need to know. If you are helping a local business, you are helping your community. You're helping at least one family, if not many, many more. And that's what I think about. Ever since, this is getting personal now, but ever since I started seeing my now wife, like that has been my focus. Is before it was about me, what can I do to raise myself in the world? When I got together with my wife, it's how do I raise the community around me and my wife to make our world better? Because that's the key, right? It's we can work on ourselves. We should work on ourselves.
Right.
But unless we are working on the community, it's all moot.
We is better than me.
We is always better, and there, even in like within our specific industries, there's plenty of room for a bunch of successful videographers. There's plenty of room for a bunch of successful chiropractors. We can all work together and help each other out.
It's nice to play well in the sandbox.
Yeah, and it makes like I said today. I had in our meeting today, a client was looking for a new videographer because the videographer they'd been referring, the past 2 referrals he had given them, had personally called him and said, I would not refer this videographer anymore if I were you.
Oh, no.
I mean, how?
Oh, no.
It doesn't get more direct than that.
Wow.
So
Yikes.
that is just all about community. Like, it's just another way of looking at it. You know, if you have a bad reputation, you're gonna lose work.
Yeah.
If you're kind, you know, talent is one thing, but kindness. You know, I don't know about you, but I feel like talent is in abundance as compared to kindness these days. So I would much rather work with somebody nice.
Yeah. Right? Yeah. I've had that thought as I have called, you know, I have a patient who has an issue, and I'm like, well, let me call this other doctor that they've seen so that we can work together on this. And sometimes their response is less than, sure, I want to help.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's like, well, if they want my help, they can come back.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Like, okay.
Yep.
So I definitely appreciate the fact that you're looking at it like that. That's definitely something that I've learned my first year in business, is just that none of us is as smart as all of us.
Right.
You know, and if we get a bunch of like-minded people trying to elevate the community, it's a whole lot easier to lift.
Yeah.
You know?
Right, exactly.
So that first part, this is more about can you do the job? Are you a good videographer, right? And this next part, I love to finish interviews with what I call the painkiller closer, right? And it's I got the idea from a couple other podcasters that I've seen, and Jay Shetty was the big one. I don't know if you've heard of him, but it was this list of questions that he asked everybody, right? Kind of like if you've seen Inside the Actors Studio.
Oh yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Yeah, love that. So with that in mind, the first question in the painkiller closer is, what is the best piece of advice that you have heard or given or been given in your industry?
I would say find something that you're good at. And I'll tie it into what I know the next question is, which is the worst piece of advice. The worst piece of advice, I think, is follow your passion. I think that this is how it should go.
Okay.
Follow your passion to figure out what you're good at. Once you've figured out what you're good at, how do you make a career out of that? Don't tie it to your passion.
Okay.
Tie it to what you're good at. Because if you are in a job where you're doing something that you're good at, you're going to feel fulfilled. Because you're going to be doing a good job. It's just math. You know what I mean?
Right. And
so this is the thing. Like, I couldn't imagine myself doing anything else because this is what I think I'm good at. So yeah, I would say don't follow your passion into a career. You'll be lucky if you can make that work. I've been sort of like, I've ridden that line, I think.
Okay.
But I also have some regrets around that because my passion was not a financially rewarding endeavor.
Right.
And so I wish that I had identified sort of what I'm saying to you maybe when I was like 25 instead of 35 or whatever. But yeah, in terms of what you're going to be doing for the rest of your life, it needs to be something that you are you look forward to. And not every day are you going to look forward to it. Sometimes it's, oh my God, I got to go do this shoot today or whatever. But you can step outside of that malaise and look at how grateful you are to be doing something that, you know, is lifts up your spirit.
Right, right. Well, I guess that plays into the next question, because I ask people, the third question is always describe your purpose in life. But it sounds like you're describing the path to finding your purpose in life. You say that's accurate?
I would say that, yes, my purpose in life is ever changing.
Okay.
Right now, my purpose in life is to provide as much comfort and safety and happiness to my family.
Okay.
That's my purpose in life right now.
Okay.
And that guides everything that I do, and I am thinking about that as I'm making these decisions for my career and my future. Yeah, and that is certainly never going to go away, but things might kind of shift, and it might become, you know, more, once things are more settled with the family, and you know, might be more sort of community focused, and what can I do to leave a impact, if
It's
you will.
interesting that you said that, because that, you know, and what was in my head as you were saying that was that just a few minutes ago you were saying, well, since I met my now wife, you know, my thought has been, how do I lift up the community? And I feel like that's the way to create the safest, you know, most comfortable environment for your family is to help uplift the community.
And I heard this thing very recently that has really stuck with me, and it was the greatest governing body that the world has ever seen is the two-parent household. And I think that the two-parent household can look any kind of different ways, but that is, I think, wisdom. And I think that if you take care, it's because it's like with anything. You can't make someone else happy until you're happy.
Right.
You can't take care of your community until you take care of your family. You know?
Yeah.
And that's sort of where I am in my life.
Yeah.
I've been married for about 7 months, so.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's new.
You know, there was a bumper sticker that was really big when I was a kid, and it said, think globally, act locally.
Love that.
And that's what it sounds like you're talking about.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a good way to put it.
Yeah, thank you. I saw a lot of bumper stickers in my day. So tell me this. Tell me something that other people value that you don't.
Maybe, well, and this, any sort of thing that I say could go either way, but I would say other people's opinions. I value the opinions of people who know me and people who I know have my best interest in mind, but I don't give a hoot about what random Joe says online or whatever. That stuff used to really get me riled up. But
It's not worth it.
It's not worth it. And if you have your own moral compass, then you don't need someone else's. You know what I mean? I guess that's the simplest way to put it.
True. That actually leads right into the next question, because I love this question, by the way. If you could create one law that everyone had to follow, what would it be?
This is obviously one that I do not have an answer prepared for. The first thing that comes to mind would be, and this is not political in any way, but you have to do something like you have to vote, or you have to engage with your community in some way. And I'm a really big proponent of the different freedoms that our country allows for, so I think it's a fine line to walk what that would be, but
So it can look however they want it to look, but you have to do something for the community.
At some point in your life, I think, maybe by the time you're 25 or something like that, it doesn't have to be the Army, it doesn't have to be the Peace Corps, it doesn't have to be anything dramatic.
Right.
Maybe we come up with some programs that are for people, but a way
Go to the tool bank and build a picnic table.
That would work for sure. Yeah, like involve nonprofits, absolutely. Like it's something to force people in a way that is still within our values as a country,
right,
to give back to their community.
Okay, I like it.
It's too much selfishness in the world. If there's a way to kind of make it so you can't be, but so selfish, or to mandate some sort of education that is outside of like public education, but some sort of like community education, that everyone has to do at some point,
Right.
or
Like
whatever.
de-incentivize the selfishness.
Yeah, somehow.
Yeah.
Because ultimately, giver's gain
Yeah.
is about you gaining. You know what I mean? Like you give,
True.
and that's the idea. But ultimately, it's about you gaining, right? And like, I think that there is wisdom to that. Even if you are an inherently selfish person, step outside your comfort zone, volunteer somewhere, do something, give back, because you will see it come back to you somehow through the universe.
Right.
I don't know how that works, but it does. It really does.
Yeah. You had mentioned earlier a podcast that you follow. And the next question that I always like to ask is there some form of media, like a book or a movie or a podcast or something like that you're really passionate about, and why?
I am very passionate about the podcast medium. I have a bunch that I really, really like.
Okay.
I mentioned this might have been the one that I mentioned earlier, but there's a podcast called Breaking Points that is a news podcast, and it has one politically conservative-leaning person and one politically liberal-leaning person who actually lives. The woman who's the liberal is from Virginia. Her name's Crystal Ball. She actually ran for like state senate or something like that not long ago. But they are just offering what's happening in the world, they offer all of their sources, so they cite everything, and then you get to hear both of their perspectives on it. And I just think that's really refreshing, and they're so respectful to each other when they disagree, and things get heated. But they're just like, it's the model for, somehow us sort of coming together as a, I'll just keep going back to community.
Right. As opposed to the House of Commons or Congress, like they're trying to fight across the aisles.
Yeah.
And you said breaking points.
Breaking Points.
Breaking.
Yeah, that's a really
breaking
good one.
points.
Breaking
Plural.
Points. Yep.
Okay.
They're like, if you go on Spotify, like the number 1 or 2 news podcast in the world right now.
Wow.
And they've grown from just them in a small studio with a very small YouTube following to now they have like hundreds of thousands of subscribers, and they have their own studio, and they're a real model of kind of what we were talking about, like with Mr. Beast. Like they started small, and now they're big. They're really big now.
Right.
They've had a lot of help. They've been on some really popular podcasts that have helped propel them into the universe. That's how I found them.
Oh, okay.
But the only reason that happened is because they're doing such a good job, and they're authentic people.
Okay.
Yeah. We haven't talked about that word, but authenticity, really important in what we're talking about with social media, video.
Right.
And giver's gain.
Because even with that, if you're not authentic and wanting to give, then I don't know that you get.
Yeah.
Because it's, that you're not really giving if it's trying to pull as you give. I don't know.
People read into that.
Feels awkward.
Yeah.
When someone does that.
And if you're not somebody who's naturally giving, it's like anything else. If you do it for enough time and you fake it till you make it, eventually it'll become habit and eventually become part of your body. It's just like anything.
Yeah. Yeah. What I say is the more you do anything, the better you get at it.
100%.
Yeah.
And the more you like it a lot of times too.
Yeah.
Even if it's something you don't like. Like, I don't do it myself, but ice baths. You know what I'm talking about?
Oh,
like
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, people love that stuff, but nobody loves it the first time they do it. So that's just, and running.
Yeah.
My wife is getting ready to do her first marathon. 2 years ago, you wouldn't have caught her in a pair of running shoes, Dr. Joe. She did not run. And now, COVID, I think, was a big inspiration for it. She's getting ready to run her first marathon.
Wow.
I mean, it's just like, the more you do it, you can, if you want to, you can learn to love it.
I heard Tony Robbins say one time that if you do anything for 6 months, you won't be able to imagine your life without it.
Sure.
Yeah.
That's me with the gym this year. I started going to the gym this year for the first time regularly, and I think I'm a lifer now. I really do.
Wow.
Awesome. My body's feels so much better. It's crazy. I don't feel like I'm almost 40.
Okay. So The last question always goes in like this. We're almost done.
Mm-hmm.
When you're done
Mm-hmm.
in life, in your career, take it how you will,
Mm-hmm.
how do you want to be remembered? What do you want your legacy to be?
Well, professionally, I want to be known as somebody who helped elevate everyone else's game. Like, that's my ultimate goal, is to be in a position where I'm encouraging others to shine. I think that is one of the things that I'm also good at, my background as a director,
Okay.
is fostering talent. So professionally, that is what I want to be known. And then, just, and it's probably simple, you've probably gotten this answer before, but like just personally, just like a good man. That's it. Good man.
World is in need of good men.
Like a good dog, It's like, I just want to be a good man, that's it.
That's good. Well, Matt, it's been a pleasure. Tell people how they can find you.
Sure. Our website is thevideodepartmentrva.com. And you can find all of our socials there as well. And yeah, you'll be seeing me around.
Okay. Good stuff. If you don't have a video department, call the video department.